Hello, and thank you for tuning in to Starting Small. Today, I'm joined by Craig Dubitsky of Happy. Craig, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm psyched to be here.
Yeah, so I'd like to start out with your upbringing. Where did you grow up, and what would you say your childhood was like?
Wow. Well, the easy part, I was brought up in Englewood, New Jersey, for the most part, and it was lovely. I'm very lucky. My parents uh, are awesome and we're awesome. So
Incredible.
I'm the luckiest person you just met.
Love it.
My father was an entrepreneur. My mother was, I think, I'm trying to think of the best way to put it, was probably in her way a frustrated creative who didn't have the same outlets that I think she would have wished for back in the
Mm,
day as a suburban mom of two, but
yeah.
very creative. And I think both my parents instilled in me this idea that you just have to try, just try. What's the worst thing that happens? You
Mm,
just got to try. So I'm very
absolutely.
fortunate.
So, growing up as a kid, what were some of your interests? Would you say entrepreneurship? We can get into the design side of things, creative
Sure.
side. I'd love to hear that.
Um, Well, I literally, I've told the story before, and people are like, "No way," but way, it's true. I was a little kid with a lemonade stand, and I don't know how old I was, maybe like I don't know, 10 or 11 or something, maybe younger.
Yeah.
And um, I wasn't content just selling lemonade. I thought there's a much cooler thing that might be possible. Since I was flagging people down to buy lemonade, I thought, well, what if I brought in other kids in the neighborhood and I employed them and they washed cars? So I was cross selling and upselling as a little kid, So I
Wow.
had flagging out cars, serving up lemonade, and I was doing, basically the light touch stuff. I wasn't sitting there washing the cars as much as other people were, but I was bringing in the cars, bringing in the business, and then paying everybody. So
Wow.
I sort of um, I think was always like this as a kid. I always saw opportunity everywhere, and
Mm,
it just kind of irked me all the time that it wasn't being. I hate to use this word because it sounds very just sort of yucky and Machiavellian, but it wasn't being leveraged that
mm,
opportunity. So that kind of stuff just always bothered me. That level of inefficiency
yeah.
and opportunity lost used to just drive me nuts.
Mm,
So yeah, so I started out that way. And I guess I've always been like that. Um,
mm,
the rest of my life has kind of been like that.
yeah, for
Something
sure.
bugs me, and I'm like, why is it like that? Why can't we try this? So yeah,
Awesome. Well, I saw you went out to study at the University of Rochester. What led you
I
to go
did.
there, and kind of what was your experience overall on higher
I
ed?
loved my time at the U of R. I originally went there because of the music school.
Mm,
This is not a unique thing to me. I love
yeah,
music. I think a lot of people would say they love music.
yeah.
And Eastman School of Music at University of Rochester was considered one of the finer schools for Western classical notation. And um, I really would never, ever in a million years have said I was a musician. I certainly now would not say I was a musician, but I had this real love for music and still do. And I thought, well, Eastman, that's going to be the place. So
Mm,
I ended up going to Rochester. I loved it. I met some of my best friends ever. If any of them were listening, first I'd say, why are you listening to this? But besides that, I would say thank you for listening. And
yeah.
they're still some of my closest best friends. And I met my wife there,
Wow.
and we still have besties from our days at Rochester. So I have nothing but love for the lovely U of R. If anyone's listening
Love
from
it.
Rochester or nearby vicinities, big ups to you.
Awesome. Well, your career overall has taken a wild entrepreneurial journey and path. And coming from Rochester and music, I'm curious, what was your vision at post graduation that you wanted to
Well,
do?
well, funny you should ask.
Yeah.
At the lovely University of Rochester, I had multiple businesses while I was there. Um, I had businesses from high school that followed me to school.
Mm,
I had businesses on campus. With three of my best friends, we had a food business that was open 7 nights a week on campus. You got to go back in time. I'm of an age where you could do certain things that now would probably be very difficult to pull off because of different, just rules and regulations that schools might have.
Mm.
But I had fully licensed, food handler licensed facilities opened up on campus. We had
Mm.
food shipped to us every day, fresh food brought in every day at 5:30. We were open 9:30 at night till like 2:30 in the morning, 7 nights a
Wow.
week. Yeah, I had a student carpeting business where I would sit in front of cafeterias for the first week or so of school with swatch boards, and I would have students pick out their top three choices for
Mm.
carpet. Then I would buy bulk carpet based on those choices and have the carpet custom cut for their
Wow.
dorm rooms, and then charge money to deliver to their rooms, less money if they came and picked it up off the back of a truck in a dedicated location with a
Mm.
pickup window. Um, yeah, I had a student trucking business, taking student stuff back and forth to school.
Wow.
At the beginning and end of the year, I was very, very ambitious and entrepreneurial in school. I changed my major several times. Graduated with an economics degree almost by accident and by
Wow.
default. And my original, and I'll use this word very loosely, plan
Mhm.
was, well, of course I'm a businessy type of guy. I need to go to grad school and get an MBA. And, what were you doing back then in the late 80s? If you
Mm.
were business minded and an economics major, well, you better go into investment banking. Like that's kind of what you did. And you'd
Yeah.
be an analyst, or if you were lucky enough to get into an analyst program, you'd be killing yourself with 80+ hour work weeks with the hope that you would then go to a good business school and then come back to the bank that might have been, um, you know, treating you so well with those 80 hour plus work weeks,
Yeah.
and come back with your MBA. Well, long story short, I didn't do that. I graduated with my undergrad, and I had taken a job at one of those banks for an analyst position. And I'm very lucky. I
Mm.
had an old high school friend who was a year younger than I was, and he hadn't graduated yet, and I had just graduated from college. And he
Mhm.
said, I need a lift to work. I promised my brother in law a ride. I totaled my car. You need to give me and my brother in law a ride to work because you just have to. Otherwise, he's going to want to kill me, or he is going to kill me. And
Mm.
you need to see this place where I work. And I was like, well, where do you work? And he said, oh, my brother in law is managing director of the Financial Instruments Exchange and the New York Cotton
Wow.
Exchange. And you need to come see the floor of the commodities exchange. And I said, no,
Wow.
I've accepted this job. I got to go. Like I'm starting work in, like a week, and I don't have any suits. And he
Yeah.
said, there's a Brooks Brothers across the street. They have a sale. You need to come in and drive me to work with my brother-in-law. So anyway, very long story short, I went down to the World Trade Center, which is a sad thing to think about right now, and
Mm.
as it existed back then. And I walked onto the floor with my friend and his brother-in-law, and I saw a bunch of people yelling and screaming, jumping around, and I thought it was just a madhouse. And my high school friend walked over to this trading pit, wrote a bunch of stuff on a piece of paper, clocked in a little ticket, and told me how much money he made in like 8 seconds. And he said, I don't even know what I'm doing. You need to come take my job. I'm going back to finish my senior year of college. Don't take your job at that bank and take my job as a clerk on the floor. So
Mm.
I did that. I pushed my start date back with this bank. It was
Wow.
Drexel. It was back then it was called Drexel Lambert. And anyway, the bank kind of imploded, and
Wow.
I wound up on the floor of the commodities exchange. Ultimately, I became the youngest member of the New York Cotton Exchange and the Financial Instruments Exchange.
Wow.
And I'm just wired funny, and I see arbitrage everywhere, like everywhere. I just see opportunities everywhere.
Yeah.
And on the floor, I just uncovered all these mispricings, basically, all these arbitrage opportunities.
Mm.
And I went to a friend of mine in the marketing department of the exchange, and I talked with him about things I had seen. And keep in mind, I'm like a total puppy. I don't know anything about, I don't want to say anything about anything, but I certainly wasn't like some seasoned futures trader,
Yeah.
guy. And
Yeah.
Anyway, I told this guy about all these things I uncovered. I built, this sounds also pretty elaborate, but I promise it wasn't. I had a Mac. This is like early days of Apple. I had a Mac and I quote unquote built, and again, a lot of air quotes around that,
This in
a
the 80s.
spreadsheet, total
Yep.
80s. I built a spreadsheet. I put together a very, very rudimentary spreadsheet. And I uncovered all this mispricing.
Mm.
Um, and I went to this guy in the marketing department, just casually talking about stuff. It's like, young guys will do. We were talking about music, and good place to get pizza, oh yeah, arbitrage.
Yeah.
And he kind of lit up. And one day he called me, and I was on a speakerphone on his end. And he said, "Hey, Craig, I'm in Chicago with these people." And I told them about our arbitrage. And
Mm.
they want to know, like, could we execute against this? And I'm making, like, I'm a clerk, right? I'm making no money. Like, my rent, you can't make this up. My rent in New York City was $15 more than my take home after tax pay. So I was net negative $15, like, behind, but I had
Wow.
money from all my businesses in college, so I could afford to do this.
Wow.
So I'm like, can we do this? I'm like, of course we can. I had no idea. These people that my marketing friend from the exchange went to go see, they gave us, again, you got to go back in time. This is like 1987,
Yeah.
$400,000. $400,000.
Wow.
I was making $635 a week, right? They
Yeah.
gave us $400,000 to go try and execute against this trade that I had uncovered. And anyway, it all worked out. I became the youngest member of the exchange. I did all
Wow.
sorts of, I was an options market maker for a while. I was a futures trader. It was nuts. So I built a
Wow.
business on the floor and kind of never looked back. Again, I see discrepancies everywhere. It could be commodities, currencies, culture.
Mm.
Once you're wired that way to like look for the cracks,
Yeah.
um, they're everywhere. So it's a music quote for me. It's Leonard
Mm.
Cohen who said, "There's a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in." And I'm always looking for the cracks, and I'm
Mm.
always looking for the light, and it's everywhere. Once you
Wow.
open up yourself to it, it's everywhere.
What an incredible story. I would love to get into kind of segue into personal care and how you entered the consumer product world. So I know method products, we all know kitchen sinks and home. I know you're a part of the founding board on that team. If you can kind of share your journey into method as it kicked off your consumer goods side.
Sure, and I promise to keep it much shorter. I had started a company in San Francisco, and my old CFO said, "There's this guy I met who likes all the same stuff you do, brand and design and culture, and you guys have to meet." So there was no agenda other than what I just described. I met this person for drinks and dinner, and it was Eric Ryan, who's one of the founders of Method.
Mm.
And people have said to me many times, like, "Oh, you were like the first person I knew at Method, so I consider you one of the founders." I'm not a founder of Method. I'm just a guy who met the founders really early when they literally were two guys mixing product in their bathroom,
Mm.
and I believed in their vision. So I met Eric. I kind of fell in love with this idea that that good design can elevate anything and everything.
Yeah.
Like, there's no such thing as a boring category. There's just boring executions. It doesn't matter what it is. It
Mm.
could be an orange peeler because I'm looking at one sitting on my desk that I keep here because I just think it's cool.
Yep.
Anything and everything could be made better and more beautiful. So I kind of got into CPG because I got introduced to Eric, but I was introduced to Eric because my old CFO knew I loved, I shouldn't use past tense, love,
Yeah.
present tense, design.
Mm.
And even when I was in college, I was lucky enough to spend a little time traveling in Europe.
Mm.
And I wanted to start a company. I can't believe I'm even thinking of this now. I wanted to start a company in college. I called it, in my mind, Epoch, but without the H at the end. It was European Products of Cool, because I had been to the UK and I found all these amazing products out in Paris. And I was like, God, why can't we get these things here? I thought there was an arbitrage opportunity when I was a high school kid. So
Yeah.
anyway, fell in love with this idea of household cleaning products being really truly beautiful and also more natural.
Mm,
because people were spraying the stuff all over the place and really not paying attention to what they were putting into the like physical and actual environment. So you got
for
to
sure.
also go back in time. This is 2001, 2000. Yeah, maybe it was 2000,
Yeah.
2001 or so. So back then, if you were a quote unquote green product, it meant you were highly compromised.
Hmm.
Like back in the day, green stuff just didn't work as well. You
Yeah.
cared about the environment, but you weren't going to get a satisfactory experience in terms of the performance of the product.
Yeah.
And I think Method was way ahead of the game in a whole bunch of, you know, in a whole bunch of levels.
Hmm.
So yeah, Method is what got me into it, and understanding that the biggest thing people purchase is their home and the
Mm.
stuff they use to take care of it. This hugely important purchase
Yeah.
was either toxic and or really ugly.
Mm.
So, um,
Yeah.
making better, more beautiful stuff was the ticket.
Yeah. Honestly, from my point of view, I'm a huge fan of Method, and the design, you're right, caught my eye the first time I saw Method. It's so simplistic, but it's beautiful. What was
Yeah.
the current state when you first heard of Method? What was the state of the packaging, and how did you see that evolve
Oh
over
my
time?
God. Well, the original name of the company was 1731 Brand House Designs Inc.
Mm.
Because I think their address was 1731 Union Street in San Francisco, and I think the original idea was like, yeah, a lot of things are ugly and we can make things better. And Method was this sort of concept. So it was very early, and the original products that they had were just a few hard surface cleaners, trigger
Mm.
sprayers, just trigger spray bottles.
Yeah.
And a big part of the magic, apart from formulations that were more natural and really great fragrances, because back then fragrances for cleaning products were pretty basic. So
Yeah.
to have things like Langy Lang, like no one even knew what that was, or cucumber, or bamboo as a fragrance,
Mm.
that was pretty exotic. And one of the biggest, I think, boldest moves that Method made at the time was they used photorealism on the packaging. Like if you
Mm.
used a window cleaner back then, um, it probably did not have a picture of a human being standing next to their window. Like I think
Yeah.
at one point they had like one of their significant others opening like French doors at their parents' house as like one of the images on the pack for
Yeah.
window cleaner. Like no one did stuff like that. Like one of the founders for the bathroom cleaner had, I think they went to Home Depot and bought a sink, like a basic sink. And he
Yeah.
just put on like a white Oxford shirt, like a pressed shirt, and held in his arms this sink. And that was the label. It was like a photo of like him from the neck down and his arms outstretched holding a sink. And that
Wow.
was the first label for their bathroom cleaner. And
Wow.
back then that was outrageous. Like no one had anything like that.
Yeah.
So
Interesting.
Method went on to go from, you know, imagery like that to really some interesting architectural, a little bit of blobism type of design language, like these visual cues that were smooth and rounded, and
Mm.
color, because they had fragrances like cucumber. So
Mm.
clear bottles where you could see the formulation with flavors like cucumber. That was like, wow, what's that?
Yeah.
It was really grabby.
It's incredible. So continuing on this CPG route, following along from Method, you eventually found your own CPG company. So if we
Mm-hmm.
can get into EOS and kind of, I feel like the packaging just evolves kind of as we see today with Happy. Yeah, there it is right there.
Yeah.
It's just so
Yeah.
simplistic, but beautiful. I mean, I would love to dive into that and your vision with that at the beginning as well.
Sure. The first product actually was a women's shave cream, which I have one I'm looking at over there.
Awesome.
Um, and then, it moved into other areas like lip care. Um, the idea really, the first thing was with the shave cream that if you're a man and you want to spend $1, just using round numbers, on shave cream, there's a lot of stuff for you. If you
Yep.
want to spend up to $100 on shave cream, there's a bunch of stuff for you. There's a bunch all the way through these different price points. But if you're a woman, again, you got to go back in time. there was
Yeah.
kind of nothing. Usually what you got was a man's product that they applied the pink tax to, and they
Yeah.
put some flowery, imagery and some floral fragrance in it and charged more.
Mm.
And it was usually a product that was literally a man's product with propellant in it and alcohol. Because when you're shaving as a guy on your face, you don't want oily skin. So
Yeah.
typically the formulations were kind of drying. They kind of like just get your face ready for a sharp implement to go across it. And
Yeah.
that was kind of it. Well, if you're women, you might want, first of all, it's a larger surface area that women are shaving typically, right? Legs.
Yeah.
And women want moisturized skin. You got to go back back in time. A guy just wanted a close shave, right? No nicks and cuts and things like that. So the idea was, well, let's say, again, you're a man and you have unlimited financial resource. Great, go get the most esoteric shave cream you can. Or you're on a budget and get some for $1. If you're a woman,
Yep.
you got short shrift. So we were going to make a more premium product that was really moisturizing. And the idea was, because men's products were what they were, what if we made something that was really, really moisturizing? And it was so moisturizing, you literally could just rub the product into your skin when you were done. So you didn't have to like go take a shower. You
Wow.
could just apply this stuff to your legs if you're a woman and shave and rinse off the blade, because that's always a good thing to do. And then
Yeah.
rub in whatever was left. So you could like go on a hot date after a long day at work without having to jump in the shower and shaving your legs. You could just like literally shave your legs.
Wow.
Believe it or not, that was this crazy idea. And the packaging back in the day, they were steel cans. You couldn't recycle them. They were filled with propellant. They'd leave a rust ring in your shower. I mean, they were just like nasty. So made this soft touch pack that was grippy. So if you did use it in the shower, it was comfortable to hold. It was a cream as opposed to some foamy stuff that was going to dry your skin. It was really ergonomic. It looked amazing, and it felt great in your hand, and it felt great on your skin, and it worked really well. Boom, totally worked. And we launched it, and within, I think it was like 5 weeks at Target, with no marketing, no advertising, there was no social media, just by sheer dint of the way the stuff looked.
Yeah.
And I wrote the directions, by the way, and the directions said shave, period, touch, period, smile, period.
Wow.
Which you got to go back in time again. That was like a wild thing to do. Because compared to other products, they literally were like written by the legal department and someone in marketing, and the directions would be this elaborate, set of instructions for shaving your legs. And I was like, if you need instructions on how to shave your legs, you probably have bigger challenges.
Yeah.
So
sure.
Anyway, EOS went on to become, I believe it was after 5 weeks, the number one selling depilatory in Target. And then the idea of the lip sphere and the stick came about mostly because we had some info that the average woman was ingesting 5 pounds of petrochemicals from lip product. So we wanted to make something that was more natural and organic and lovely and easy to find. Like make something that was really high touch and like an objet, like a beautiful piece of art that you can engage with every day. Because you're putting this thing up to your face, right? And you're putting it on your lips. And if anything is going on your lips, it's going in your body. So making it natural and moisturizing and effective, yes, check all the boxes, but making it kind of fun and high touch and something you want to, that has a high fiddle factor that like you can't put down. And then is attractive and unadorned. Because there was something about simplicity and elegance that was missing from the category. So EOS, again, captured a lot of people's imagination, and it was very findable and very shareable. People, and by shareable, I mean, if we found this out later, that there were young girls that would buy these things and they would swap like their top with someone else's bottom.
I remember that.
A way of showing that they were friends. Like you couldn't plan for that. Like there's no way anyone could have known that was going to happen. So
that's incredible.
Yeah, it captured people's imagination. That's kind of the idea.
Yeah, I mean, right there, shareable. That's what I was going to dive into next. It's just there's such a virality behind the design of just that product alone. I remember when I was in school, and girls would swap it out, or you're also just proud to take it out because it's really a piece of art. It looks attractive. What was the ergonomic like when the R&D process for the application itself? Because it's not
Well,
your typical stick.
yeah, it's not a typical stick. I mean, first of all, it's not. This is not an ergonomic
Yeah.
grip, right? This is not. So I think a lot of it came down to how it felt. You
Yep.
know, like haptic response. What was the durometer of the outer soft touch material? Um, and you know, we sat with a sculptor and two young designers and made this thing. Like it was done in clay. It wasn't done on a computer, really, which
Mm,
is also pretty cool.
yeah.
Because there were definitely 3D modeling software, you know, applications back then. But we worked with this artist, and we wanted something again that was a piece of art. And I remember sitting with this sculptor, and I don't have one of the sticks near me, but the same thing, this like sort of element, I call it, this little like off radius
Yeah.
little divot. It's ergonomic, sure, you know, but and it gives you a visual cue like where to touch and where it might open and things. But
Yep.
the original moment, I remember sitting with the sculptor and I came up with this wild story. Um, and I described a setting to inspire him a little bit. And this is about the stick in particular. And I just sort of made up this wild story about it's 1,000 years in the past, and we're sitting in Japan. Why I chose Kyoto, I have no idea.
Mm,
And it's 1,000 years earlier, and we're sitting by a rivulet that's broken off from a stream, and there are cherry blossom trees blowing, and there's wind chimes, and I painted this elaborate picture. And I
yeah.
said, by this rivulet that we're seated next to, there's this little piece of slate, and it's been sitting there for forever. And balanced on this piece of slate where water has been running off, or
Mm,
just below it, there's this perfect cylinder, this billet, and it's been there forever. Like maybe an alien race came and dropped it off. Who knows? And for some
mm,
reason, this little rivulet that's broken off this stream, that's broken off a river, has been dropping one drop at a time, over and over and over, on this
mm,
perfect billet for 1,000 years.
yep.
Excuse me. And maybe the wind has blown and the water didn't always land exactly right in the same place.
Mm,
And but over 1,000 years, it's worn away in this shape. So you look at the stick; it's this perfect cylinder. But if you were to look at that element from
yep.
different angles, you'll see it's not a perfect radius. It's a little off. So that's
Wow.
where that came from. And I
Incredible.
wanted the long part of the stick to be the overcap to be long because women have manicures, and you know, to pull off a tiny little cap versus a large piece just seemed more, again, ergonomic
Yeah.
and more thoughtful, basically. So all this
Mm,
stuff comes from a place of like love and thoughtfulness, and
love it.
yeah, it's the best. It's the best guide. Like, what would make
Yeah.
somebody fall in love with something? Like thoughtfulness and
Yeah.
consideration and considered approach to materials and flavor and fragrance and
Love it.
formulation and all that stuff.
Love it. I mean, before we get into happy, we'll just touch on hello. So, following EOS, I mean, personal care, natural, then you get into hello, so natural. You focus on oral health then. What kind of led you into, I mean, getting the balm, shaving to then oral health? What led you down the segue?
Yeah, I had this real bee in my bonnet, and there's a through line really that um, there's this notion of commodities, which is where I kind of started out of school. But there's
Mm,
this other notion of like transforming commodities into something much more. And that's usually done through thoughtfulness, design, brand, copy, storytelling, vibe, formulation, all these like soft things.
yep.
Commodities are hard, you know, they come out of the ground, we mine them, we grow them, but
Yep.
there's a softer side that makes a commodity into something more magical.
Mm,
Um, and that's the human touch more than anything. So I did not intend to go into the oral care world with this like great big vision, you know, like let's go after that. What happened was I was in a drugstore for whatever the reasons are. I honestly don't remember. I was in Manhattan. I went to this drugstore for something, and I walked by the oral care set,
Mm.
and something caught my eye for all the wrong reasons. At least for me, they were all the wrong reasons. I'm sure for the design team and the brand people at this particular brand,
Yeah.
their work was spot on because it stopped me. What I saw was a hologram of an extracted tooth on a package. And I
Mm.
was like, whoa, look at that. Like someone actually went to the trouble to design this bulbous, like a metallic print on a box. So it like physically and visually jumped out. Like it literally was like bulging off the
Wow.
paper of the
Mm.
box. And it had this hologram on it of an extracted tooth. And this was a major brand. And the box also had this weird element to it where it looked like they created another surface where there should have just been a right angle. It looked like a dent, but it wasn't a dent. It was an intentional additional surface they added where they thought they could write some
Interesting.
grabby copy. So anyway, I saw this extracted tooth. I saw this foil, and I'm like, well, you can't recycle that box, so that's pretty crappy. But all right, got my attention. But again, for the wrong reasons. And
Mm.
and I started looking around, and every other product I saw had an extracted tooth on it. And I
Mm.
went, that's the global icon for good oral health is an extracted tooth. That's like saying the symbol for peace should be like a military weapon. It's like
Yeah.
something just seems really off to me. So my
Mm.
spidey senses go bananas, and I see there's a big blue brand and a big red brand, and one has Max and one has Ultra, and one has Total, and one has Complete, and I'm like, this is Coke and Pepsi, like
Yeah.
they do the same thing,
Yep.
and I thought oral care is supposed to be about smiling and good health and feeling good, and all these guys are doing is scaring the crap out of me. Like one brand is killing this, the other one's fighting that, the other one's eliminating this, the other one's destroying that. And it was this like war going on in your mouth. And, the dentist is the scary person who's going to drill, fill, and bill you.
Mm.
And it's the only category I could think of where if you ever have an issue, it's always user error. It's
Yeah.
never the product. Like the product they give you on the way out is the stuff you use, and then you use it and you come back and you have a problem, and it's always your fault. It's like
Yeah.
you are late for your dentist appointment. You should have been here 6 months earlier, or you didn't floss like you should, or you brushed too hard, you brushed too soft, you use a soft bristle, you should use a harder bristle, use an electric. Oh, you shouldn't use an electric. Like
Yep.
it's crazy. So anyway, I had this epiphany in the aisle, and I thought this is the most unfriendly category I've ever heard of that's supposed to be about friendliness and smiling. What's the friendliest word I could think of? And it was hello, which I thought would also be um, a simple word that would act kind of like a lightning rod for the category in
Mm.
terms of waking people up to a very different emotional approach to the way brands normally speak in
Mm.
oral care. So it hit me really hard and really fast. Like as long as it told me to tell you that story, it
Yeah.
happened in like 1/1000th that amount of time. It was like, bam, this visceral
Mm.
thing.
Wow.
So I started hello. It was me, 3 people and a dog. And fast forward, hello became the fastest selling, fastest growing oral care brand in America
Wow.
or North America. And, yeah, it was great. And, the products were vegan, cruelty free. I say were, they still are.
Yep.
Made in the USA. We had 4th generation women owned farms in Oregon growing the mint. The tubes were always BPA free and, recyclable and FSC certified paper. So we didn't kill more trees making the boxes. We printed with soy based inks
Wow.
and made the products very affordable. So they were really effective, truly effective. Like we would test them in the same labs as the biggest oral care brands in the world. And our stain removal was great. And our abrasivity levels were very low. Like they were high performing products, very thoughtfully formulated and sourced and priced so people could afford them. That was the big idea. Like, what if we made better stuff and made it so more people could have it? What a crazy idea that is. So
Yeah.
anyway, it worked.
Love it.
Yeah. And if you haven't tried it yet, go out there and get some. It's great. I promise.
Right? Yeah, no, I definitely vouch for that for the listeners because I have. But I mean, continuing to touch on that, not only aesthetic and also the verbiage of the giant players, the conventional toothpaste
Yeah.
that you were seeing in the aisles. There it is, right there.
Yeah.
So simplistic. I love it. But going into kind of market hello, how did you do that? Because oral care is something you walk down the aisle, you're at the grocery store,
Yeah.
and you go towards the toothpaste you know.
Yeah.
So, what does that look like to get your stance in oral care? I'm curious.
Yeah. Autopilot for most people, for sure. It wasn't a straight shot. There were plenty of times because I know, you know, we're starting small. We started small,
Yeah.
and in the beginning, there's a lot of effort to prove to people that the products were legit because in a lot of other categories, like let's take Method as an example, right? And I love Method, and Method is a very efficacious product.
Yeah.
But if you bought Method 20 years ago because you cared about the fragrance or you cared about natural ingredients and natural fragrances and things in your home,
Mm.
if it didn't work that well at removing, a stain from a dirty window, you squirted a little more and you rubbed a little harder and your window got clean.
Right.
No, it was no big deal.
Yeah.
And again, that's not to diss the efficacy of Method. It's just the risk was very different. In oral care, if you had a bad tooth day on Monday and you were, thinking, well, just had a bad tooth day. Tomorrow will be better, or I'll scrub a little harder. Um,
Yeah.
the next day, you don't have a good tooth day. Like it's just not that simple. You're not just going to scrub a little harder and it's going to be better. Like the
Yeah.
efficacy had to be there, the seriousness, the gravitas of the category, because it was
Mm.
a wellness proposition. Um, was a greater challenge or represented a set of greater challenges we had to overcome. So there were a
Yeah.
lot of proof points that we had to work on. So getting into dentists, getting into
Mm.
the largest distributor to the dental community, getting third parties to really say, no, this is a good, credible product. That was really important. It couldn't just be, oh, you guys are really clever marketers. I like the way the package looks. Because you could fall in love with the package and then you go to the dentist and you have 5 cavities. You don't really you don't give a hoot
For sure.
as to how nice the package was.
Yeah.
So it took time to get to a place where people felt comfortable and where trust was earned.
Mm.
And that took some doing. And, luckily, again, it was a lot of hard work, but it paid off. And surrounding this idea with great people, for anyone
Mm.
who's listening, that's the key. You just have to
Yeah.
you have to get true believers, not mercenaries. People that really believe in what you're doing and what you hope it stands for, your brand, and what your company sort of hopefully elicits in people when they see it and touch it. You have to get people that really live that stuff, and then it
Completely.
starts to amplify and go out into the world.
Mm.
And it, if it rings true and touches a chord, we live in a very interesting time where people
Mm.
share. So,
Yeah.
and they share unlike other times when certainly word of mouth was a thing and still is, but now you can
Yeah.
amplify word of mouth so dramatically.
For
So
sure.
we're lucky. Great
Mm.
product is still the best advertising, and people
Yeah.
having a good experience and believing in what the brand and product is all about. Boom, off you go.
Mm. Incredible. I mean, such an incredible journey so far, and then it doesn't stop in 2023. I love to get into Happy. So,
Me too.
ha- yeah, I mean, the partnership, not only do you have a celebrity co-founder, but also it just follows your own journey from previous years. It looks beautiful, the packaging again.
Thank you.
So if you can kind of just touch on the founding story behind Happy, there it is again.
There it is.
I
I'm
love it.
surrounded by product. I'm like product everywhere. Yeah, I'm a product person, so I love product. So Happy. Couple of, not everything starts from like one moment, right? Like I was in
Yeah.
that store and walked by the oral care set. Boom, had a moment. Got introduced to the founders of Method. Had a moment.
Yeah.
Lip care. My wife and everyone she knew was using these products that were filled with petrochemicals. Okay, that was pretty easy. This one
Yep.
wasn't as clear. I wasn't, I'm not a coffee drinker who was upset by something. A lot of stuff
Mm.
comes to me because I'm like, yuck, that's ugly, or how could they do that, or I'm a real user of that category. Um, so something perturbs me. Coffee, something did perturb me. A few things perturbed
Mm.
me. And one of the things that got me was there are a lot of tropes in the category, and the language. It's like got to be bold and rich, and like the
Yeah.
color schemes of the category are sort of, let's just say, they've been around for a while.
Yeah.
And for some, that, when things stay the same for a while, they might represent tradition, they might represent maturity and longevity and solidity. And that can be a really great thing for certain brands in certain categories. Absolutely. Heritage, tradition, these are very strong cues
Yeah.
and wonderful platforms if you're a brand person to have access to, for sure.
Yeah.
I looked at a lot of things in the category and I saw a lot of overtly masculine things to me. They didn't feel very modern. They
Mm.
felt heavy and trying very hard. And anyway, the thing that I think gets us really excited about coffee with Happy is that it's another commodity category.
Yep.
There's a lot of storytelling around beans, but Robert and I will talk about Robert too in a second because you mentioned interesting
Yep.
founder, co-founder. We have this idea that coffee is a commodity. People are special. And a lot of coffee brands talk about how special their beans are,
Yep.
but beans are a commodity. Even though they grow in different parts of the world, there's the equatorial band. They all grow within like a certain, set of miles around the equatorial band. All right. There's
For
no,
sure.
like, some brands are like, we're mountain grown coffee. All coffee grows on a mountain. There's no
Yeah.
celestial coffee. There's no hydroponic coffee, at least not yet that I'm aware of. So it truly is a commodity, right? I used to trade commodities. There's a coffee, sugar, cocoa exchange.
Yep.
People are not commodities. People are special. And it feels
Mm.
like we could do this sort of flip, this jujitsu on the market and focus more on people. And, I remember talking very specifically with Downey about this. And, the name, this trademarked name that we have is Happy. Coffee makes people happy. Now happy can make people coffee.
Mm.
And he made this really interesting comment. He said, not everybody's happy. And we started talking a lot about that. And my bride is a PhD in clinical psychology.
Mm.
And I remember having really intense discussions with her about the state of happiness. And I asked her if she knew of an organization that was doing really important work at scale
Mm.
around mental health, because the stats are alarming, like truly, truly alarming.
Yep.
And without going into too much detail on stats, I'll give you like some highlights.
For sure.
Suicide in this country is at an all-time high. 1 in 5 in this country have some form of mental health challenge.
Mm.
Um, Handguns are the number one killer of teens, and suicide is number two. And
Mm.
often number one and number two go together. I
Yep.
just saw a stat earlier today that I don't want to butcher and misquote, but it was something to the effect of 1 in 5, I think, people, and I might get the years wrong, between like 18 and 24, I think it was,
Mm.
this past year had suicidal thoughts, like suicidal ideation. I mean,
Wow.
it's an incredibly difficult time.
Yep.
And mental health affects so many people. And we're trying to find ways to get to mental wellness, take this idea of health into wellness.
Mm.
And how can we do that? And so we wanted to focus on that. And a lot of companies talk about purpose, and
Yep.
purpose is very important, I think, because people don't want to buy things, they want to join things. They
For
want to
sure.
find things that they care about and that they feel are, I don't really like this word, but they're authentic, meaning they're truthful.
Yeah.
There's not, like, people have a bullshit meter and they can tell if you're winging it, or you're doing it because you're a mercenary and you just, you want to take advantage of something. So
Yeah.
what we've talked about is with our team, they're a family. Like we're a family, right? So people we feel are like joining this idea of happy, and we get to work together, and it's great. And we've said, purpose is important, but like, how about we raise the game on purpose and we take it to a place of responsibility? Like
Mm.
we think a little bit of a loftier set of goals that come with responsibility versus purpose. Because you can have a goal and you get credit for going for the goal. You're focused, you have a goal, and that's great.
Yeah.
And no joke, that is great. It's great to have something that gets you going and excited and up every morning and focused
For
um,
sure.
and manifesting. That's awesome.
Mhm.
But how do we take it up a few notches? And knowing that what we're dealing with so many people is causing so many layers of difficulty. So how do we take that seriously and still be called happy? The brand isn't about unicorns and rainbows, with all respect to unicorns and rainbows, because who doesn't
Yeah.
like a good rainbow and unicorn? So we're trying to approach the wellness aspect in a sensitive and thoughtful way, and not browbeat anybody and not be preachy, because that's not cool. And we
Yeah.
also want to take this differentiated approach towards entrepreneurship and philanthropy.
Mm.
Like a lot of folks are trying to do good, and that's amazing. Full stop. Like there's no
Yeah.
judgment. There's no. Are you kidding me? You're trying to do a good thing. Awesome. Like awesome. Whatever your good thing is, you're
Yeah.
making the world a little bit better. That's epic. But we did find that there were some brands and companies we felt were being a little performative about things. Like, well, this
Mm.
month it's like, here's the cause we care about, and we're giving this percent to this thing because that seems like a good thing. And we
Yeah.
just didn't want to do anything that was performative. We wanted to make sure um, it was evergreen and going to have as much impact as we wanted to try to bring to it. And
Mm.
anyway, we decided to do
I
something very
love it.
different. And my bride had mentioned this group, NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness, which is the largest grassroots mental health organization in America. There are NAMI
Mm.
chapters everywhere. It's an incredible group doing incredible work. And the part of the magic, it's always people. So a big part of the magic is people that are lovely and caring and not just well-meaning, but incredibly well-trained
Yep.
and brilliant. And they developed at NAMI 988, which is the first nationwide hotline for mental health. It's a 911 of mental health, which is
Mm.
amazing. So it's live, it's real, it exists. If anyone needs help, please
It's incredible.
don't hesitate, right? Go to NAMI.org, go dial 988 if it's an emergency, even if it's, just, yeah,
Mhm.
don't wait. Waiting
Mm.
is a big problem. So please do not wait. I can't stress that enough. So we want to do something very different with
Yeah.
NAMI. And what we did was we decided to give NAMI a piece of the company from the get-go. So they're on the cap table, they're an equity stakeholder in the business. It's not like, oh, well, next month it's, fill in the blank month. It's, bring your
Yeah.
dogs to work month. And we love dogs. I have a dog. I love the dog. She's my foster fail. I can't tell you how much I love this dog, but I could. It would take up all of our time. But with
Yeah.
all due respect to that, it's like, okay, like that's okay. And then next month it's, it's this cause. And the next month it's this cause. And,
Yeah.
we care about, this eco conscious situation. And those are all important things. Again, I just want to make sure I don't come across as being flippant about anyone else's magic. There are many, many,
Yeah.
many causes that are very worthwhile fighting for.
For sure.
We just decided to go after, this particular cause and try to raise the bar to a place of responsibility, not just
Mm.
cause and purpose.
That's
So
incredible.
NAMI is great. We love them. They do very special work, and we wanted to bring awareness
Mm.
and hope that there's help, and make that very much out front and out in the open, and destigmatize
Yeah.
this notion that mental health is something that should be kept secret, or you're alone, or there's nothing I can do about it, or I feel this way, it's just the way it is. The number one thing we heard from NAMI that
Mhm.
they would hear about from people is, oh, if only I knew help like this existed. If only I knew NAMI existed. So we wanted
Mm.
to do what we could to change that and improve upon that. So on every pack, there's a QR code that goes right to NAMI. There's the toll-free number
Incredible.
that goes right to NAMI. And again, it's this notion, hopefully, that we're making it okay to even talk about this stuff. And I will share this
Mm.
thing about my experience so far, because we just launched a few months ago. This is only a couple of months,
Yeah.
and when I say a couple of months, it's like January 30th is when we, sort of unveiled this thing. And it's,
Yeah.
not even 2 months since then, right? The number one thing that has blown my mind, it's a very, to say it's touching is an understatement, which is why I stress responsibility. I hear from someone I know or have known for a long period of time,
Yeah.
every single day, as well as people I don't know or have just met, how they have had a mental health crisis, loss in their life, and to say it's shaken me and inspired me at the same time is an understatement. So
Mm.
it's incredible how I'm tripping over my own words because I have so much I want to say and how emotionally charged I am about this topic.
Absolutely.
It's not a light LITE topic,
Yeah.
and yeah, we wanted to again like let people know that there's hope and there's help. But the
Mm.
part about happy I didn't talk about,
Yeah.
apart from design, which we can talk about if you want. How does it look? How does it feel when you touch it? This thing is 100% recyclable. Even the label
Mm.
material, this whole thing can be curbside recycled, which is super cool. You can
Incredible.
reseal it. You can take your lunch in it if you want. It makes amazing sandcastles possible and snow forts because you can make killer bricks with this thing.
That's a
It's
great point.
amazing. And the coffee is also amazing because if we were all about just celebrating the fact that there's hope and mental health is something we're all, closely associated with in terms of its importance. That's great, but the coffee had to be amazing because otherwise you'd say that's a really great cause.
For
Check
sure.
the box. I'll buy it once, maybe. The
Yeah.
coffee is epic because we wanted to make sure we made product that people could fall in love with, not just a cause we care
Mm.
about or a tone of voice for the brand that resonates. All that's very critical. But if the product isn't great,
Mm.
you buy it once. You don't join it, you
For
transact with
sure.
it. And we wanted joiners. So we had to make sure we came through on the goop. And, it's amazing. The coffee's fantastic. Like,
Yeah.
it's really, truly major thumbs up.
Love it. I mean, just hearing the story so far, I mean, the mission and purpose behind Happy is, first of all, just very touching and incredible. But you make a great point. It does have to be a good product as well to make
Mm-hmm.
those customers retained. I've been following Happy since you guys launched, and you mentioned just really January 30th, and I know it evolved around a Super Bowl campaign, which I'm a huge fan of. If you can
Yes.
touch on that inspiration behind Robert Downey calling into work about people canceling the next day, I mean,
Yes. The
it's awesome.
big game, as it's known as. So the idea was, as we mentioned before, like not everybody's happy.
Yeah.
So what people really want, like Super Bowl Sunday is amazing. Well, maybe your team doesn't perform the way you wanted it to. Maybe you enjoyed yourself a little too much that day. Like, what can we do to make Monday a little more bearable? So the idea was like you ping, Downey's going to try to get you the day off. Like Downey's going to talk to your boss. And people are like, no way. Like, he's not going to do that. Yeah, Downey's awesome. He's incredible. He's a great partner. He's a great co-founder. He's really in this thing. People do ask me, like, oh, is he just like is he like a casual participant? I'm like, no, 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 no.
Mm,
He is all in. We would have
it's
probably launched
awesome.
9 months earlier, but he was like, nope, we got to tweak this. I want this flavor to taste like this. Like, we got to redo this. I mean, yeah, he's all in. So the idea was again, just do something really fun and different and unexpected. And I think I hate to call it a campaign because campaigns by their very definition have a finite start and a finite end. It's like that's a
Yeah.
campaign. But this was more like, well, what else can we do as a brand that's a little bit different that shows that we're a little different? There was nothing in there about like, oh, and the beans are, rich and bold and dark and roasted. And, there was like, there were no pictures of coffee. There were no pictures of beans with, steam coming out of them or anything. It was just to
Yeah.
be different and human and fun and unexpected and figure out like how to make people happy. And man, Robert has a lot of superpowers, but one of them is definitely making people happy. Like
Yeah.
he could just like he can tell you what time it is and make you laugh. I mean, he's unbelievable. So to surprise people and to use another terms, like there's an old marketing expression, surprise and delight. I mean, I really think this was like surprise and delight. And there was no huge expectation, like, let's do this huge thing and we're going to put it on the air. It was like, no, like Robert's going to have some fun. Like we're going to have people see if they want to, get the day off and surprise the heck out of them and their bosses by having Downey do a Zoom with them and try to convince their bosses to give them the day off. I mean,
It's awesome.
it's just fun. I mean, just fun. So hopefully that comes through and people, pick up on that.
Mm-hmm.
And it was easy. You know what I mean? It was like nothing was scripted. It was just Robert being Robert.
Love it. Well, Craig, as we wrap up here, I'd love to touch, just on your journey so far, it's incredible. If you can share one piece of advice with an aspiring entrepreneur, maybe something you've learned or regret along the way, what would you say that would be?
There's probably more than one, so I'll try to keep it super tight. Let's see. Say yes more than you say no. Keep putting yourself out there and give, expecting nothing back. Because that's the key. Otherwise, if you give and you're expecting something back, you're not really giving. So just share, and say yes. Like just show up, say yes, go meet with people, keep putting positivity out there. I have 2 kids, and that's what I always try to instill in them. If you put positivity out, you get positivity back. You put negative out, it's pretty straightforward what's coming back your way. So
for sure.
Say yes, just believe, be a good listener, which is hard for me to say as I've been doing all the talking. But just keep it positive. It sounds such a LITE thing to say.
That's a great point though.
But it's really true. So say yes and pay attention to who's right next to you, because you never know what you could learn, what doors could open. Just avail yourself to opportunity because it is everywhere. And my other big bit of advice I'd say is don't be scared to try. Because if I tell you the number of people that told me no to all these different things we just talked about, like method, oh, you can't do household cleaning products. Like there's already, fill in the blank. There's Windex and Clorox and, there's a million brands. There's Tide. Like you can't do that. Everyone said no. And everyone said, oral care, you're not a dentist. You can't do that. Or lip care or like women's shaving cream. You're a dude. Like, what do you know about shaving women's legs? And like, everyone told me no, basically. So the other bit of advice I share is don't listen to the people that tell you no, because no one really knows, Like, so there's KNOW and there's NO. And I think you got to focus on the KNOW and figure it out yourself and ignore the NO.
That's a great point.
Yeah. So
love it.
Try. Because if you don't try, you've already failed. So what's the worst thing that happens? You learn a lot. It's great.
Yep. Absolutely. Well, Craig, thank you so much for joining me today. And to the listeners out there, make sure to check out Happy at happyproducts.com.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, and Amazon.com/happy.
Amazing.
You can watch Robert on there too. It's a lot of fun.
There we go.